Hinduism. Though all of the religions now are kind of experiencing an authority crisis, they're all malfunctioning. It's not really clear how you sort that out.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you for your talk, sir. You only briefly elaborated on the transition, the diction kind of that's associated now with the state between invoking certain laws and things like that. I was just wondering whether there has been any public reaction against that, or not, the state not coming up with a more clear-cut definition of what's going on, and we're using some more of these Western.
Yeah. Yeah, if you talk to fully traditional Islamic scholars, when they try to read the newspapers in the modern Arab world, often they can't understand it at all because so much of it is translationese. And they do feel sort of alienated and excluded. The traditional Muslim terms, which do seem to fit terrorism quite well, baghi and hiraba, are hardly used by the Arab press, which prefers straight translations taken from some Reuters agency of the Western terms, political violence, terrorism. The problem is that the elites, which generally in the Muslim world control the press, are uncomfortable with indigenous vocabulary. They, in many cases, are more comfortable with Western languages than with their own language. That's certainly the case in places like Pakistan and Bangladesh, many Arab countries as well. In North Africa, generally, the ruling elite speak French amongst themselves. And the indigenous media are controlled by them in such a way as to exclude voices that they consider to be old-fashioned, traditional, alien, not quite correct in their eyes. Which is a great shame, because that means that the public conversation, such as it is, and it's generally not very good in highly regulated Muslim societies, can't actually link in the eyes of the religious majority of the population what's happening now to the categories of the traditional religion. Instead, everybody is being forced to be a moderate in favour of civil society and social engagement against extremism, and those are all kind of Western categories, and as a result it's not really heartfelt, it's just a kind of lip service that's being paid to it. This whole industry of liberal, of moderate Islam, it's a term that everybody's using, but it's not clear that it's an indigenous term, and very often it can sound as if it's sort of lukewarm Islam. One is moderately Muslim, one isn't too Muslim. That's how it sounds, particularly in Islamic languages, and hence it's regarded as being yet another tool by the regimes to kind of deflate the religiosity of the population. And indigenous terminology, which would be closer to the middle way, balance, sort of concepts like that, is excluded. To some extent, things are getting better. In the Turkish media is generally much more mature than the Arab media. The Arab satellite TV channels sometimes do genuinely try to at least explain what the new terminology means religiously, because the satellite channels kind of break the boundaries of the nation states. They're a little bit less regulated than, say, the Egyptian daily newspapers or the Dubai daily newspapers, and that's where you find a more interesting conduit with ways in which the traditional Sharia vocabulary can engage positively with Western terminology. But still, you have to read a lot of newspapers in the Middle East before you come up with really incisive and interesting analysis, unfortunately. Journalism itself is not a very reputable profession in those societies, because everybody knows that on a really important story you have to say what the government will allow you to say. But these new media, the internet to some extent, and also satellite TV is actually helping to break those boundaries, and things are slowly getting better.
Okay, I think we should... I don't think we've got time for that, but he'll be around at the end?
Briefly, yes. I've got
to
another
answer
thing
some
at 8,
questions.
but
Okay, so I think we should thank our speaker again. And I'd just like to remind you all there should be some feedback forms on your chairs. If you just put them on the table at the back, and I'd just like to draw your attention to tomorrow's talks. There'll be the Friday sermon again by Tim Winter, so you can come and experience what that's like. There's a debate at 6 p.m, The God Delusion, by Professor Simon Blackburn and Hamzat Sources. And on Sunday, from 11 till 4 and 6 till 10, there'll be Around the Colours of Islam, which is just a walk-in exhibition at Guildhall, which is just in Market Square. So hopefully you'll see you there. Thank you.